All right, welcome everyone. We have some special discussion videos that we're doing here for Street Fighter 6. And as you guys notice, we're doing it live. The chat is here. Joining with me, two special guests. First, cool guy Mir. What's up?
Hello. I wear glasses. I'm cool.
That is Mir. He is cool. And
yeah,
the saltiest player I know, Sonic underscore
man.
Soul. What's up, Sonic?
What up, everybody?
Long time, bro. Long time. So we're going to talk about some interesting things for Street Fighter 6 while we're waiting for content. A lot of them are going to be spicy topics, you know? A lot of things that, you know, we're hearing a lot of, especially pro players or influencers that are talking about right now. And the first topic, we're going to start off with a big one, and that is the drive rush mechanic. Our thoughts on it, if it needs to be toned down or whatever, and of course solutions on what Capcom should do with it in the upcoming balance patch that everyone is waiting for. So yeah, really exciting. I'll even ask the chat too, once we get to the solutions part. Chat can give their feedback as well. And on YouTube, you guys can give your comments. And Capcom recently released a survey too, where you can give them some feedback, hopefully. I guess to start this off, if you guys have been out of the loop, there has been a lot of, I wouldn't say controversy, but there has been a lot of outspoken about Drive Rush a lot, especially among pro players. The game, the meta is kind of feels a little, I wouldn't say stale, but now it's, Drive Rush is very prominent. We're seeing it almost every 2 seconds, you know, back from the beta test, it wasn't this crazy. And now everything is just Drive Rush, Drive Rush, Drive Rush. And a lot of players are just getting really sick of it. First, I'm going to ask you two briefly, what do you guys think about Drive Rush? And do you think it's it needs to be toned down, and slash, do you think it's too prominent? Go ahead.
Do you want to start, Sonic?
Yeah, I could start.
Go ahead.
So, you know how much I sacrificed? Green Goblin Dash, bro. I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
What's up?
That Green Goblin Dash needs to actually get nerfed. That's the first thing I have to say. Like, I'm serious. You know, like, I've gone into several Twitch streams and I've watched the best players just complain about this Drive Rush, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe these top players are scrubby, right? But the truth is, nah, it's broken. And I'll tell you exactly why. The first thing, right? If you're a character that has a fireball and it's slow moving, and you Drive Rush after it, it's over. You're in the Legends of the Hidden Temple, and you got to hold the fact that they're gonna throw a fireball and then they're gonna be plus, and there's
just
not much you can do
bro.
about it. Yeah, just perfect parry the fireball, bro, and try to stop them. Oh, wait, I forgot. Because the fireball's in front of the screen and you attempt the perfect parry to try to Drive Rush back or whatever, I mean, you're the one at disadvantage anyway. They're going to hit you regardless. Some characters, right, like Ken and DJ especially, they just do Drive Rush jab, and it is so difficult to stop. You literally cannot check it. You can't, especially DJ's Drive Rush jab. He's teleporting at you, and he gets like a full 40% combo, bro, off the jab.
Briefly,
it's
insane. Briefly.
It's
We're going to go over all this. We're going over all this. So I take it from what you just said, you want it to be toned down. That's what you're trying to tell me.
It has to be toned down,
just a little
bro.
bit. That's what
it's eating my inputs, man.
All right. Sonic has spoken.
I'll summarize what Sonic said. Sonic said it's like, well, this Drive Rush mechanic is fairly balanced, but I personally do not like it very much. So I think it should be slightly toned down, but in a very reasonable manner, of course.
Okay.
As I've expressed in my
Mir. Now, what about you? Briefly.
I fundamentally agree with Sonic in the sense that Drive Rush is obviously extremely prevalent. It is not a matter of resource expenditure, right? Because if you were looking at Drive Rush saying that, oh, you know, everyone's using it because it's 1 meter, then you would expect just everyone to be spamming DI instead, which is also, well, no, instead as well, which is also 1 meter, right? But obviously we don't see as many DIs as we see Drive Rush. So clearly what that means is that it's harder to stop. So I think the right move here is to try and look at ways on how it should be, you know, like easier to deal with. And by the way, they balance the game and how the characters do their combos with DR and stuff. What we instead should look is the risk. Maybe the risk is too low, and that's probably what should be toned. But I don't feel as strongly about it as Sonic does. I think it's because I play Guile. That's probably biased because I just throw fireballs. But you know, like, that is my experience.
Okay, so both you guys want it to be toned down. I agree as well. I'm also on the fence of I want it to be greatly toned down. I'm more leaning on Sonic's side here. I just feel like the game, like Street Fighter 6 is a game, how it's been built, it actually has amazing neutral. They got rid of the priority system. The crush counter system's gone. They made it so that the proximity guard, is not as annoying where like, Laura's throwing a fireball full screen from you and you're stuck in block stun. Extended hurt boxes, buttons are more minus, and slower dashes. I feel like all of that's kind of thrown out of the window because now drive rush is so prominent now that like you don't even get to see that stuff most of the time.
Skip neutral.
Yeah, I'm not saying like the game has literally no neutral, but it's just for there's more drive rush than neutral in general, I think. At this point.
It's a very polarizing mechanic. I
Yeah,
think. That's the issue because it's like if you have matchups where you have characters that are good at controlling neutral with fireballs especially and detached hurt boxes on their limbs. I don't know what I'm talking about. Then you do see more neutral, right? Like because you are forced to play it that way, right? But it's the characters that cannot deal with drive rush the same way that suffer the most. And then they get those matches where it's like one guy does drive rush, gets blocked. They do their block string back to neutral. The other guy does drive rush, gets blocked. Or hit, and then it's like, I can see how that one would.
I'm just saying, like back in the Street Fighter beta, it was just like it just felt really exciting. The neutral in general, just like getting those whip punishes, like your light punches are not like T-Rex arms, like Ryu standing light punch in Street Fighter 5. So I'm like now, fast forward to now, like I guess another thing too, guys, is just that this game, the competition is like more hardcore than it's ever been. The competition is so fierce. The netcode is so good. We got players practicing on an international scale, and everyone's leveling up so quickly. Plus, with social media, and there's so many content creators now that like the information is just spreading so quickly. Everyone like understands the game very quickly, especially when you get into the higher levels of ranked. So everyone knows about drive rush, and everyone is drive rush. It doesn't matter what character you're using,
Yes.
And even like me playing Aki right now, once I get into the higher ranks, like closer to 1800 MR. Like, I'm winning, and in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I just drove rush on this guy, like, 6 times in a row. Like, I feel, like, dirty. I feel yeah, that's part of the game, but I'm like, man, I just, like, I'm putting this guy into, like, Casino Fighter 6, like, constantly, I
think there's an interesting way of describing this in the sense that if we look at a recent turn, or R, in Singapore, we could see how the best players in the world that got to the grand finals, they could deal with drive rush. They could do what we can.
Yes.
And it's interesting to see that it is possible in the first place to be able to play at that level. But what I was going to say is that it's cool that Capcom managed to make a game where that is possible, but shouldn't it maybe be more accessible to the majority of the player base?
Right.
Because it's cool that it is possible to deal with drive rush, but you have to be so cracked, and not everyone is that cracked.
And there's so many different factors too. There's like so many different factors to actually stopping the drive rush as well, because it depends on the character's normals, how far they are from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What character you're even fighting in the first place, because their drive rushes are not all the same, and if they have a fireball or not. Like, it has so many different implications as to how to like actually check and deal with it. And in some cases, we see players just legit, like in Singapore, we see some players literally just parrying because it's very difficult to check like a drive rush jab. And in order to actually like stop it, most players opt to just perfect parry when they see the drive rush. But then you're at the mercy of the aggressor anyway, because you now have to guess whether they're going to drive rush with a light or drive rush with a grab, because you're not going to be able to react to that.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, as you move on forward, like, then you have the fireball drive rush aspect of it, where now you have to worry about a whole different nuance to somebody drive rushing at you. You can't just immediately check the drive rush anymore. There's just a lot of different variables to people going green in this game that just, you have to understand that the top players are checking it, but they're not always checking it every time, because there's so many other things to worry about.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fair to say though that if a mechanic could be checked every time 100%, then it would just stop being useful, like, whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that it should be checkable all the time, but then you have other issues like it eating your inputs, right? Like, you have other things where it just completely makes it difficult to check by nature of certain characters' hitboxes, which if we were to go into like character strengths and whatnot, that'd be completely different
Right.
territory.
I mean,
But
in that way, it is polarizing, right? It's what we were saying.
exactly.
It's like some characters that are already good tend to have better tools to deal with the drive rush, and those that
Exactly.
maybe don't have well, actually, you could argue that some of the characters are good because they can check drive rush
Oh yeah.
better than others. And I mean, it basically, it's like you have a base of game mechanics, which is what we have in Street Fighter 6, and then
Mhm.
it's like, what are the characters that can use these mechanics better than others?
Yep.
And most of the characters in this game fall into the category of if they're top tier, they can use the game mechanics well. If they're low tier, they cannot use them well. Aside from, like, the only exception, and I sort of like hinted at it before, I think, is JP, in the sense that
Yes.
JP plays a little bit outside of this paradigm of like, if you're top tier, use the game mechanics well. If you're low tier,
Sword normals.
it's like in his own little island. But aside from that, I guess the point being, the moment you make the game mechanics more balanced across the cast, in the sense that the low tiers and the high tiers are able to benefit from them in a more equal manner, then already that is a huge step towards balancing the game correctly, right? Because that is the hard part, right? Because it is a universal mechanic. So how do you do it, right? It's I guess we're gonna talk about
You
that
were gonna talk
when we
about
get
it,
to
yeah.
solutions.
The thing is, though, Amir, like, back to your point of like the highest level of play, they're checking drive rush, and that's why they're at the top. I don't like the idea that drive rush is so, because there's other mechanics in the game too. I don't like the idea that drive rush is so prominent that what makes or breaks you being a pro player is checking drive rushes. How good are you at checking drive rushes? I don't like that at all.
I absolutely agree with you.
That's silly.
Like we were saying, DI is much more obvious of an example, because many more people are able to deal with drive impact if they are aware of it, right? And then it becomes more of a situation of the opponent is thinking about so many things that the DI is unexpected at that point, and it works.
Yeah.
And the drive rush probably should behave in a similar way, right? Especially because they're both low resource cost mechanics.
Yeah.
And I think probably that's what Capcom wanted to make, and it's just, like, they didn't quite land on it. And I hope that they're working behind the scenes to find solutions.
Do you guys think that Capcom intended drive rush to be this crazy?
Yeah, part of me doesn't think they intended it.
You don't think so?
Part of me doesn't think they intended
it. I mean, the fact that it costs 1 bar means they wanted you to use it frequently, but that could include combos as well.
It was just like drive impact. I was gonna add on what Mir was saying. In the beginning of the game, right? I watch a lot of FGC translated. I try to watch like the Japanese players as well as the American players, like international play as well. And Daigo legit said, like, about drive impact, that you're not gonna see it at the highest level of play because of the fact that it's such a high risk, high reward situation, and the fact that, like, if somebody does drive impact first, they might die, right? Like, no one is ever, like, at the highest level play, most people are under the premise of, I'm only going to DI if my opponent DIs me, right? That's usually the main premise. Obviously that doesn't always have to be the case, but that is 1000% usually what people think. And it's very simple to see, like, at the lower levels, like, people just throw out drive impact so much as opposed to higher level play, because it's actually it transitions more from using DI to using drive rush instead. It's a similar cost with drive rush. I would argue it's a little less, because with drive impact, it's the 1 bar. But with drive rush, you're spending half for the parry, and then you're spending another half to actually do the drive rush. And then whatever normal you hit gives you back the drive gauge anyway. So I would argue you spend even less than 1 bar for your drive rush to begin with. And not only that, but the fact that drive rush in and of itself is so prominent, because movement speed has been nerfed, like you said, from Street Fighter 5 and other games. It's been nerfed. Yeah, dash speeds are nerfed now. A lot of approaches are a little bit easier to deal with, because some characters have more lenient fireballs, more or less, that they can, like, fireball trap with, or other characters are capable of being able to anti-air because they have, like, frame 1 air in-boom anti-airs. And then jumps are animated a little differently now. So it's just, in general, it's easier to combat the neutral game. But then because Drive Rush is like throwing a monkey wrench in that, where Drive Impact could have been that, right? Drive Rush ends up throwing a monkey wrench in that because it's so hard to deal with in terms of the input. It's like the input's getting eaten alive by the screen freeze. And as I said,
like I said, we're going to get into what makes it so strong real soon here.
The movement speed being changed, I think, goes in tandem with the fact that for a lot of moves, proximity block has been removed.
Yes,
and
exactly.
If you had made the game as fast as it were previously, it would be very difficult to actually play footsies without proximity block. So I think in that sense, it like compensate each other. But of course, it has other repercussions on other aspects of the game, like you pointed out.
I think Drive Rush, in a way, also makes the game much more accessible because there's a lot of players that they don't really need to understand the nuances of neutral because they have Drive Rush. Like, for example, you play a character like Jury or Ken. These characters, like they said, they have everything they need with the Fireball Drive Rush or just high-speed Drive Rush, right? Even DJ. And with Street Fighter V, it's like, you know, you're dealing with some insane dashes in that game, like, I don't know, Urian's dash, like half-screen dash and stuff. But now, like I said, it's all overshadowed because of Drive Rush being so strong. And I feel like if Capcom does tone down Drive Rush, I think it's going to, I guess the only word I can say is expose some players on their game because they rely so much on Drive Rush now. Even me, when I'm ranking up new characters, I just see so much DI and Drive Rush, but obviously DI is so much easier to counter. But okay, let's finally get into it now. Let's break it down, every part of Drive Rush, what makes it so insanely strong. Okay, so the first thing that we've all mentioned a few times is the very low cost, the self-sustaining, and the fact that it eats inputs. So do you guys think that Drive Rush should be eating your inputs when the game slows down?
They made a little fix some time ago about
the parry.
Drive Rush eating inputs. No, like, you remember how it used to eat your inputs all the time? Like, it actually was a serious issue at first. And they rolled out a little hot fix.
I win a lot of matches with Aki where I'll throw the bubble and then I'm going to Drive Rush after, and then I see they were going to parry it, but then it eats their input and they get hit by my bubble and I win. Like, it happens so often. It's like insane. What about you, Sonic?
I'm just trying to find the patch that Mir was talking about. You have to press your button before the Drive Rush even comes out.
Like, or you hold it down.
Or you can hold it down to buffer the button input. Yeah. And in some cases, it's not going to always be feasible because it's like, yeah, you can hold the button down to try to like stop the Drive Rush, but at the same time, the screen freeze is also there, so that way you can react to the Drive Rush. So why would I want to hold it down to stop it when I should be able to react to it because the game is literally stopping for me to be able to press my normal to attack it?
There are moments where like Capcom underestimated like buffering. For example, when Tokido was mashing jab into Drive Rush, right?
Yes.
They actually had to emergency nerf that. And then
they had it right when Rashid came out.
Right.
You could do it with the button, but then all lights, you're no longer able to buffer Drive Rush into it, even with the button or just with forward.
Yeah, you'll get like the cancel 3-bar penalty.
Which will be 3 bars. Yep.
So yeah, that is an example of like Capcom like not anticipating something with Drive Rush on its power.
For sure.
When you Drive Rush in on someone, it's so low cost, right? And I think the cost is good because of how there's a lot of cool combos you can do because of it, right? But in terms of the pressure, the fact that it costs 1 bar and you apply pressure and it builds you bar back, since you're so plus with some characters like Jerry, for example, right? Or Ken, and you're draining their drive meter, it's like self-sustaining. Like they can just drive, like I feel like I'm gonna under like Ken's pressure. You know, I'm like looking at his bar and it's like, it feels like it's not even going down. You know what I mean? Like it's so self-sustaining.
Also, if you walk forward or move forward in this game, the game is also giving you meter as
Yes.
well. I also wanted to mention the change, right? That was mentioned regarding like, oh, the screen freeze and everything. It was actually mentioned. It was on July 24th. It was
Okay.
during when Rashid was released. Like they fixed an issue where medium kick would suddenly be performed when a parry input was buffered or input during the freeze and then released before the player was able to perform the parry. The above issue is also occurred when you did a drive rush or super art during that freeze, and it's been fixed. I think people misconstrued what this message was about, and they thought it had something to do with drive rush, but it didn't.
Wasn't
It
there
was
another fix though? I thought there was. I
No.
mean, maybe
No.
I'm
Not that I know
just
of.
no other
Okay.
fix.
interesting.
Not that I know of.
So people got
I got confused myself. I thought they were talking directly about the input, and I even mentioned it in my YouTube videos. I was
No.
wrong about that.
No.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
that's
I was
very
wrong about that.
interesting. Then I guess
sucks.
it just haven't run into the
It
the
still
issue as
exists.
much, which is pretty
It still
peculiar.
exists.
That's the guile of life, bro.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I just throw fireballs and anti-air.
Yeah. The other thing is the problem with drive rush. I feel is the risk reward is just out of control. So now we'll get into drive rush from crouching medium kicks. If you have a cancelable crouching medium kick, drive rush overheads, and drive rush forward moving buttons. So characters that have like forward moving buttons, like Aki's forward heavy kick, Luke standing medium punch,
Guile bazooka knee.
Guile bazooka knee. Yeah. Buttons like this are just so insane because the rules of drive rush making you +4 on block and all your buttons, making them safe or even plus. And the fact that if your character has a crouching medium kick, it's so low risk, high reward to catch somebody's toes with crouching medium kick, which crouching medium kick is like your designated like poking button for your character and just in Street Fighter in general. So to make it something where you can get a free pressure that can put them in the corner or knockdown, that also plus on block after you drive rush in to still keep your turn and give another chance to knock them down. Again, it's just so insane to me. Like if we look back on the Street Fighter 4 days of FADC and how that was really crazy, but it was like from specials, you know? Like we were doing like there was like low forward fireball focus attack or focus dash cancel, and then we go to Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5 was more like activate V trigger,
trigger.
But now with now you start off with maximum meter every single round in Street Fighter 6, so you'll have access to this immediately every single round, you know. So
yeah, for sure.
And sorry, I know I'm going overboard with this, but the overheads too, like drive rush. Well, like Sonic was mentioning this before too. Like when you're knocked down and someone drive rushes at you, you're kind of in this weird guessing game. Characters like Aki and Guile especially, where you have to worry about is he gonna drive rush low or is he gonna drive rush overhead, right? Or drive rush throw. And if he guesses wrong, or on the overhead or low, he is still like on his turn, it's still a plus. So it's like it's just wild to me, right? Like how much power you get just from drive rush, and then if you land the hit, you're gonna drive rush again and again until
that situation that you're mentioning. I didn't even mention it on knockdown. I was talking about neutral, where they do drive rush light, and players were forced to do perfect parry in order to stop the drive rush light because you can't react to the drive rush light in mid range. You can't. Not with a button. You have to parry, which means you're susceptible to getting thrown because of that, right? Then when you're knocked down, that entire like mind game now switches to more than just, the light. Now you have to worry about a drive rush overhead or low and then a throw afterwards. So it's an actual pressure starter too, just off of knocking someone down that everybody universally has. So I wasn't even, I didn't even think about the knockdown implications. I was just talking about the neutral, which was the main initial point that you were mentioning. But you are right. You are still correct.
No, it's interesting because you can look at these situations and you can see what Capcom was thinking. It's like, okay, well, we have this drive rush mechanic, and then the idea is you kind of train your opponent to not challenge you as much because drive rush is scary, and if you do the right things, it becomes difficult to challenge. So then it opens up for you to do the overhead, which loses to people actually checking you, even if they're mistiming it because it is so slow. Well, so slow. It's slower. right? So I can see what they were going with. It's like, okay, this is an idea that works. Sort of like how in maybe a game like Street Fighter 5, if the opponent is too worried about you pressing normals, it opens up the opportunity for you to dash up at them and try to reset pressure and things like that, right?
Yeah.
That was their idea for Street Fighter 6, but clearly something along the way went wrong, whether either it is the meter efficiency or the damage or whatever it is. It's like somewhere in the risk reward where you don't even need to kind of like train your opponent to stop pressing, because even if you go for the overhead and get stopped like once or
You're
twice,
plus.
the one time, no, and like even if you do get stopped, I'm saying like the one time that you do actually land it, you're going to do that same damage back to them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's where the disconnect is. It's like if it was really scary for you to attempt the drive rush, even if it is hard to stop, but it's really rewarding for the person defending to have stopped you, then you wouldn't use it as much, right?
Even characters that don't even have cancelable crouching medium kicks, like there's still like Aki and Guile and like Kimberly, they can still or even JP, like they can drive rush raw crouching medium kick and convert from that. It's still very, very strong.
I play Cammy. I obviously have to do like low forward for my poke.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is they made it by design, first of all, for most, if not all, the crouching medium kicks to not be hit confirmable. Like crouching medium kick from Cammy, it's a 13 frame hit confirm window.
Yeah.
That is not humanly possible to react and cancel into every time. It's not. You literally have to be a bot. You have to be a hacker
or a Sub-Zero player.
Or a Sub-Zero player.
Sorry,
right?
inside joke.
A little...
Sorry.
But yeah, like the reason why low forward drive rush is the way it is because it's very hard to already hit confirm your crouching medium kick, right? With a lot of characters.
Right.
And so as a result, that's kind of why when you use drive rush, it gives you so much reward, even if they block the low forward. The other thing too is that I wouldn't say it's free, because you're, instead of 1 bar, you're spending 3 bars to do the drive rush, right? So it's different because you're canceling into drive rush from a normal instead of just doing it raw.
That's true.
And that is kind of like the big difference, right? One, like the cancel drive rush to me is not as egregious as the raw drive rush in the neutral, because I understand
there are answers, right, for that.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Because not every character can do low forward drive rush into another button because there's a gap in between. There are characters that can do crouching medium kick, drive rush, jab, and that jails. That's like the actual true block string.
Yeah.
But there are some instances where if you try to do like crouching medium kick into like crouching fierce with Cammy, or like even a different character, if you try to do crouching medium kick with Ken into like crouching strong or whatever, it doesn't jail. So you could DP that on reaction. I've seen a lot of top players do that. I've seen people parry on reaction if they don't have a reversal.
Even so reversal works in
and
a
you
lot of
also,
situations.
Yeah, and you can also drive reversal, but drive reversal is a little more risky, and I'd like to get into that a little later. I wouldn't want to like put it here, but in general, I would say that canceling into drivers from a medium normal, I think they thought that through, because a lot of the normals in this game are not hit confirmable right away, especially when someone is also doing like raw drive impact, right? The whole reason why the crouching medium kick isn't also hit confirmable is because they don't want you to just do that and have the ability to react to drive impact immediately, as much as everybody would want that, right? I get it, drive impact is 26 frames or whatever, right? You should be able to react to it, no problem, but people still get hit by it because they miss the cancelable window of their low forward. So in general, that's another reason why canceling into drive rush is so important from those kinds of normals, because it allows you to react with drive impact immediately after you do drive rush, right? So in general, I do think that the canceling into drive rush from crouching medium kick, they did think about that. So
I think in general, we probably all agree that 3 bars for that is fair, even though it is really annoying that crouching medium kick drive rush does exist, especially for characters that have really, really long limbs.
Mhm.
Like Jury's crouching
Exactly.
medium kick goes so far. It's very difficult
I
to walk
know.
away from her. Even
Same-
backdashing is very tough.
Same with Luke because he moves forward. Yeah.
But
Right.
that's
So
like I said, that's by design. That's what I'm trying to say. Like crouching medium kicks are supposed to make it hard to whiff punish. That's the point of the button. But now you're giving that button so much power in a game like Street Fighter
Yes.
6. You know, that's what
Right,
I'm trying
right.
to
That-
say. Like it's insane.
they thought of the reward compared to the meter expenditure, and they thought it was fine. But the thing about it is that it's not just on hit, but it's also on block, which I guess is what we were also saying. Even though there are answers, they're not necessarily obvious answers, or not obvious answers. Maybe that's not right, but more like as in you have to be really ready for them, right?
Yeah.
If someone does crouching medium kick, drive rush, and you're not prepared to do the DP, you will have to basically eat the block pressure and stuff.
We should make it really clear. Like we're mostly talking about neutral drive rush, you know,
Mhm.
and skipping
That is-
neutral in general.
That is really the big issue. Yes.
Right. Like the risk reward you get for like a jump in this game because of drive rush, you can eat if you start the round with like a level 3, you can one jump in can lead into
70%.
50%. Yeah, or 70.
That's 70%.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to.
It's really nuts, right? Or the crouching medium kick can lead into like a 50%, But I guess that's a whole other topic on just drive rush in general. But I mean, like I said, I agree with the 3-bar cost. All right, let's move on to the solutions part because there's a lot to talk about here. But I'm just gonna, well, I'm not gonna briefly do it, but I'm gonna summarize just drive rush here, so that way when we talk about the solutions, we'll talk about the problems with drive rush right now. Okay, so. Yeah. I'm going to compare this directly to DI. It'll make it really easy for people to understand. I feel like the drive impact mechanic is very intuitive. So when you do DI, the counter to it is very clear no matter which character you play. To counter DI, you simply press DI after they press DI. All the DIs are pretty much exactly the same amongst the whole characters. They're all the same speed, right? It's very intuitive. Whereas drive rush, it's complicated. So every character has different speeds of drive rush, different distances, different bursts. The button, the way you counter drive rush, like Mir was talking about before, if Ken drive rushes at me with like heavy punch, the button I use to counter it is going to be different than if he did drive rush crouching medium kick, for example. Or if a Jury did drive rush standing medium kick, I'd have to use something that crushes the lowest, like Aki standing light kick. On top of that, it's difficult sometimes, like you were mentioning before, Sonic, where if they're really close, they can drive rush light punch. Plus, eating the inputs makes it very difficult, where you're almost forced to hold down parry, but of course, drive rush throw can beat it. It's just not intuitive at all in terms of how to stop it. It's just like you have to press the buttons at different timings, different designated buttons depending on which character you're playing, which character they're playing, and of course, at different speeds. So there's just a lot to it. Then on top of that, certain characters have drive rushes from crouching medium kicks. Certain characters drive rush into crouching medium kicks, so into lows. And of course, the fireball, which is like the most oppressive thing as well, where the opponent can throw a fireball and drive rush behind it, and there's pretty much no option to stop it. If you perfect parry it, you still gotta hold whatever button they're drive rushing at you afterwards. If you jump, you'll get DP because you can cancel the drive rush into DP by that point, or cross cut it if you jump over. And yeah, I mean, there's pretty much no option.
And it's self-sustaining.
Yeah, and it's self-sustaining, like you said, because it's 1 bar, and then you're gonna apply pressure and get your meter back. That's pretty much everything about drive rush. I summarized it, right? Like,
yes,
that's all the things. Okay.
Yep.
Let's begin with solutions now. All right, chat. This is where you come in.
I got a list.
I know you got a list. Okay, let me start. Get the ball rolling. Okay, on the first one.
Trim the list.
Okay, I'm gonna get the ball rolling, and I'm gonna start with one that I don't think is a good idea. The first thing a lot of people are gonna say is, why don't they increase the cost of drive rush? I think this is a bad idea. If they increase the cost of drive rush, it's gonna greatly hurt combos in this game. Because one of the cool things, there's a lot of cool things about drive rush, right? It's cool to get Oki, like pressure after you knock someone down, if you couldn't before. It's cool to extend your combos and do, really long juggles, for example. That's really cool too, using, multiple drive rushes and pushing them across the screen. If you get rid of that, it's gonna really make the game combo-wise really stale. You're kind of nerfing the cool things indirectly if you raise the cost. So I don't think it's an easy solution. All right, go ahead, guys.
Well, I was gonna say about this one. I do not know how Drive Rush is coded, or if this is a possible solution in the game. If you really wanted to have the resource cost change specifically for Drive Rush and neutral, if it was possible when you do a Drive Rush during a combo to do a juggle, it still costs 1 bar. But outside of that, it costs 2 bars. I could see it as a solution. I still wouldn't go for that personally,
Would that be
but
intuitive?
it would be
easy to
well,
understand?
it would solve the two issues separately, right? Like as in leaving the combos as they are, while making it more expensive and neutral. But
Mhm.
having said that, I also do not think that changing the resources spent is the way to go.
One way to fix drive rush is to work around it through other methods too, like drive reversal. Drive rush is usually self-sustaining, the 1 bar drive rush,
Mhm.
because as I mentioned before, you're only really spending half a bar. Because by the time you drive rush at your opponent with the 1 meter, you're going to get some of that bar back through your offense. So
Mhm.
what players do is they try to drive reversal, right? They'll try to drive reversal, for example, on the drive rush cancel, or they'll try to drive reversal after the first normal. But the problem is that drive reversal is so slow. Drive reversal is very slow. It's -8 on block, and it spends 2 bars plus whatever you spent for blocking the opponent, right? So that would mean it would be at least 2.5 bars. And in general, I don't think that drive reversal is a very strong method of stopping people from like drive rushing at you all the time.
I'm
It's
scared to
somewhat
buff drive
useful.
reversal because I
I
really don't want to slow down the game like too much.
Well,
Like
of course.
it would
Well,
make it because you have access to
but
drive reversal immediately, you know?
yeah,
of course, and I understand that, but at the same time, while drive reversal is accessible as much as all the other mechanics in the game, it's not used as much because it's just not it's not applicable in any real situation outside of someone doing cancelable drive rush.
Two suggestions I see in the chat are common suggestions. One mention is to cause a larger penalty to the meter regeneration of drive rush. This is an okay idea, but the problem is once again is that this will greatly hurt combos. It will discourage you from using raw drive rush in combos, and some characters actually rely on this. You know, like Ryu
Yes.
after an OD donkey kick or a Denjin Hashogeki. You know, there are characters that are built around this. Even Aki, a lot of her combos are all from raw drive rushes. So that's part of the whole meter management thing is what makes it tough. Of course, we can go again to Mir's idea of that the game will recognize if it's during a juggle state and distinguish the two. Another suggestion by Joe, he mentions that what if they made it so that dry rush no longer gives you the frame advantage on block? I think the problem with this though is that characters that have natural plus on block buttons like Luke's crouching medium punch, Chun-Li's medium punch, Jury's standing medium punch, DJ standing medium punch. These buttons will be these characters will become even more out of control because now only they have access to Drive Rush Plus, and I think that it will be a huge problem as well.
You'd have
Yeah,
to
you have
change
to-
everyone basically,
Yeah,
like to
because you
accommodate the new meta or no
Yeah,
meta,
yeah.
the newest change.
Because there are characters that literally are designed to not have plus on block normals in the game because of drive rush. Cammy's one of them. Cammy
Yeah.
only has really crouch and fierce, which is +1. So drive rush is supposed to enhance that, so that way she becomes even more plus in your face, right?
Right.
And a lot of the other characters in the game, like I think the only Aki suffers too because
Forward
Aki
heavy
only
kick.
really has
His forward heavy kick's pretty
yeah,
sick.
yeah, it's +2, but that's the only plus normal that she actually has. Every
Yeah.
other normal is negative. And so, like I'm saying, like a lot of the game is designed around that frame advantage, in mind, around the drive rush frame advantage. So you can't necessarily nerf that.
Another thing that I think at the very least Capcom should do personally is they either need to at the very least, if you successfully punish a drive rush, it shouldn't be a counter hit. It should be a punish counter straight up.
Yes,
Because that
is
way
that's on my list. Go ahead.
Oh, it's on your list? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Because
agree.
what that will do is one, you'll get your maximum damage combo because you'll have more frame advantage from punish counter. Two, it's gonna drain their bar because the punish counter rewards you with draining their bar.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And of course it will reward the player for countering it, right? It'll discourage the opponent from doing it so recklessly. And another thing too, I don't know if this is intuitive, but I think they need to somehow extend your hurt box when you're drive rushing towards them to make it easier to stick out a button and stop them. But
Right, and I have something for that. I'm gonna talk about.
Go for it.
One you just mentioned is the punish counter on the drive rush, which I agree completely. I think that is a no-brainer. If they're gonna keep it as is, at
Okay.
least make it more rewarding to stop it. Another one, and this is complicated because of this issue of the inputs, is that you can slow down the screen freeze. So you can make the screen freeze longer, making it easier for you to gauge at which distance the opponent is and pick the right normal.
My brother
for the
suggested
situation.
this. Willie mentioned this one too. It won't hurt
Yeah.
combos, right? If you did that.
No, exactly. It would make it a little bit slower. Like
Mhm.
as in the combos would tend to last a little bit longer.
Mhm.
But I think you don't need to change this to be, considerably slower. It has to be just a little bit
Yes.
more so that it's more easily reactable, right? It's like going from an overhead that is 18 frames to say 22 frames, right? You go from something that is basically almost
But doesn't it
Well,
go
not
both
impossible
ways
to-
though, Mir? Because like it's kind of like you know in Street Fighter 5 where you like activate V trigger and you have like a snapshot of what's happening. So if you see your opponent jumping at you, you're kind of like, oh yeah, he's in the air, right? So like if you drive rush towards someone and they happen to be doing something like sticking out a button or jumping at you or whatever, it would help the person drive rushing too.
right. But I think considering the situation would would help more defensively than offensively. It is
okay.
true that it is doing what you are saying though.
Yeah.
And it depends on what Capcom wants to do with the drive rush, right? Like
Right.
how they want to balance it. But I think it's a universal solution that could work, like without
Yeah.
hurting combos or the economy of meter and such.
Yeah, it would definitely make like a new meta around it too, because like I said, now drive rush could also technically be used defensively, in some regard. 'cause then you could use it
YRC.
to-
Jeez.
since you could use it to like react to things.
I don't know if I like the game constantly like freezing. I don't know.
You can reduce the amount of momentum that drive rush imparts to the normal. That way, the characters don't travel as far when you press, especially if you press something that is very active or already has forward momentum, like Rashid for
It
heavy.
doesn't gain even more
Aki forward heavy
momentum.
kick, yeah.
Yeah.
Luke
Yeah.
steady
And
moving punch.
makes it easier to stop them because they don't have this hitbox that is moving forward as fast, right?
Mhm.
And so like it would be easier to stop them using something defensively like a jab, whatever, right?
Mhm.
In a block situation, where like let's say they do a drive rush cancel or they drive rush and you successfully block their attack, they wouldn't be as close. So maybe there would be less, thick throw situations off of heavies, things like that. The problem, like I mentioned, is that it might hurt some combos because there are some combos where you have to kind of like let the momentum carry forward so that a low range special can hit.
Yeah, it
And
hurt
I think
combos.
it could be an acceptable loss if they manage to
Oof.
rework those
Yeah.
characters in a way where they don't need that or they can use something else, right?
Mhm.
One thing actually that I got an idea of just from somebody mentioning it in the chat,
Yep.
Spudbugs. I actually think you shouldn't gain any drive gauge if you if you force somebody to block a drive rush and enhance normal. I don't think you should get any drive gauge back when you do drive rush into your normal. I think it should just be what you spent and that's it.
Yeah.
Because what would happen is you wouldn't have the self-sustaining thing. You would have to actually even think about it more because you're gonna have to worry about your drive gauge when you're drive rushing at somebody already because you already spent the bar, but now you won't get that extra insurance of like getting like at most
That's
half
an
the
okay
bar
idea.
back.
That's an okay idea.
Yeah, it's also good when you do drive rush cancel, cancel drive rush into a normal, because then what will happen is if the person drive reversals, then they're not going to be at a meter deficit to the person doing drive
That's pretty
rush
good.
anyway.
Yeah.
I actually think not making them gain any drive gauge on their drive enhanced normal on block would be great.
Just to clarify, like I don't want to hurt aggression. Like I want this game to be a game where if you want to play aggressive and you want to be drive rush crazy, you can do it. We just want there to be more risk to it, where not everyone is like forced to have to use drive rush every 2 seconds.
Everyone is using it.
Everyone's using it. There's players that want to play. They want to be Chris Wong, dude. They want to play some Nuke. You know what I'm saying? But not everyone is playing Luke.
Sonic was saying, okay, a lot of pro players are using trying to perfect parry a drive rush because it's very difficult to stop the jab. So what they should do, since the throw is so scary when you parry and you get thrown, right? It's a mix-up on defense, and we don't like that. If you do score the perfect parry, you could remove the scaling if you have specifically parried the drive rush normal.
That'd be so powerful.
It would be, but it would make the parry much more desirable, and then it doesn't become a mix-up.
Yeah.
Defense.
I don't know. I don't like the idea of people like guess perfect parrying. Like accidental
That's the
perfect
biggest
parries
thing,
are
man.
kind of
Yeah.
annoying.
So the other one we were talking about, crouching medium kick being so powerful, right? An easy way to look at it is basically you're taking away all of the damage from the crouching medium kick drive rush, and you just maintain the utility, right? Like the reason why crouching medium kick drive rush is so scary is because you get the combo that leads you to the corner, and then you have pressure.
So you're saying add scaling?
Yeah, basically that's what.
That sounds like
You
something
just way
Capcom
add-
would do. Like realistically,
Yeah,
I can
they
see
would add
Capcom
more
doing that
scaling.
100%.
because it's an
Easy fix
easy
too.
quote unquote fix. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So at least you have crouching medium kick still strong, and you should be scared of it because the situation in which you're put is the situation that is dangerous. But at least you don't die from just eating a crouching
That would
medium
hurt a
kick.
lot of low tier characters though, like Ryu and stuff,
It
where
would.
they're not doing any
Yeah.
damage anyways from their crouching medium kicks, compared to a character like Ken who puts you in the corner, like with Tatsu. It would-
Hey, then again though, Ryu do be hurting though.
yeah, I mean that's true. We can't look at it in
A
You
vacuum.
can't look
a
at it
vacuum. Sorry,
no.
where we have to see the balance of the other characters as well. Thanks, guys. So
Yeah.
we gotta move this on. Drive rush speeds. Do you guys think the speed of drive rush needs to be adjusted on some characters? Specifically, DJ, Jerry, Ken, the top three
Yes.
speeds. Do they need to be
Yes.
adjusted?
Yeah, man.
Here,
I'd-
Oh god.
I know what Sonic
no.
thinks. What about you?
Oh god.
He's like having a moment right there.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter more of the speed than it's you have a range that you cover with the fastest possible drive rush, basically, right? Like there's a range that you cover before you can act. That is the one that should be looked at, I think, because that's the part that makes it difficult to stop, right? Like you do drive rush into jab, you cover half the screen like DJ does, then it's really, really difficult to stop on top of the momentum. But
Yeah.
if you make it so that the drive rush into jab actually covers like a very little amount of space on screen, then it becomes much less threatening and potentially easier to stop because they have to let it rock for a while, which increases the duration of the drive rush, which gives you more time to react and punish. So the speed itself, I'm not sure. Well, basically, I mean, they're related, right? Like this is straight up physics. How
Yeah.
speed and time gives you, the distance covered. So what you could do basically is what I'm trying to say is that the minimum distance that the drive rush covers should be lower for every character. But if you
Yes.
let it rock, you can still have characters like Joy that go full screen.
All I
think
care
that's fine.
about is that if you know the drive rush is coming, you should be able to stop it 10 out of 10 times. Period. That's it.
Exactly.
That's it. That's all I'm
Exactly.
asking for. If I know it, it's just like if I
Exactly.
know a jump is coming and I'm looking for it and focus
If I kn-
directly on it, I should be able to stop it 10 out of times.
I-
Period.
If I know a drive impact is coming, I should be able to stop that shit.
What-
with drive
I'm
impact
going to be
every
very
time.
specific
If
and
I-
clarify what I'm talking about. If I'm standing here and I'm saying to myself, DJ is going to drive rush on me, I am ready to stop his drive rush. That's the only thing I'm thinking about. I should
I
be able
have
to
the
stop it
normal
10
that
out
I'm
of
gonna
10
press.
times. Period.
I have the normal I'm gonna press. I have the range that I'm at. to
Yeah,
be able to
exactly. The
react to
spacing
it.
is correct.
I-
In the highest level of play, even the most latest tournament, people are still getting away with jumps. People
Hey,
are
but-
still getting
yep.
away with DIs. This is Street
Yep.
Fighter, right? You can't react to all of it. There is enough
Exactly.
mental stack in this game as it is, okay? I gotta worry about eating 70% on round start from doing a fireball, okay? If I hit with this fireball, it's gonna tickle them, and I gotta worry about eating 70% jump in combo on round start, all right? There's a lot of things I'm worried about. So, like I said, I feel like if I think they're gonna drive rush and I'm risking focusing on that, I should be able to stop them, period. That's all I'm saying.
Think
Oh,
about
yeah.
You have to worry about drive rush, right? We're talking about how broken drive rush is. Okay, Ken, EX Fireball drive rush stand fierce. Dragon Lash +1 on block. Low forward in the drive rush. Low forward in the medium Jinrai frame trap. Jumping, DI, right? And then
Dash.
you have to also work, dash, all this other stuff you have to worry about when he finally gets in on you. It's just too many things that you have to look for. With every other character that you could list, it's probably somewhat similar, but Ken is probably God tier for all of this. And if he hits you, you're getting put in the damn corner. Okay, so once you're in the corner, there's even more things to worry about. On top of him doing drive rush jab, drive rush fierce. So there's already a lot of mental stack, and this character is getting away with murder.
This reminds me. I just imagined the situation that Sonic was home, sleeping in his bed. He was like smiling, and then Ken broke into his house, put a wet finger in his ear, stole all his candy.
It said, "How's this?"
Left the house. Yeah, how's
coming
this?
at you as he was coming through the door.
A dragon lashed out of the window, and Sonic was like, "This person deserves everything."
but to Mir's concern of drive rush being too easy to stop, I think if you consider every other like tool you have in this game, I don't think that's a problem at all. You have enough tools. I think
if they can figure out a way where it isn't, like it doesn't end up being
DI is not useless.
Too much.
It's 26 frames and DI is still used. Like I think it's fine. I think DI is perfectly designed.
Right. Like DI does a different thing, and that's the reason why I
no problem.
mentioned a little bit faster than DI, because DI, you can still armor through moves and get a punish, and even though it is slow, that works just fine, right?
The way
DR behaves in a different way, so that's my only concern. But I do agree with what you guys were saying. Like I premised all of this by saying I think we all agree that we should be able to stop at 100% if you're looking specifically for it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
All right, let's keep this going here. Last two things here on drive rush and how to balance it. What the hell is Capcom gonna do about fireball drive rush? What are they gonna do? Characters like Aki, super top tier, Chun-Li, Ken. These characters can all throw fireballs and go behind it. Jury, Guile. I don't think there's any counter to it, and I don't know what Capcom can do. The only thing I can think of, the only solution, is to simply make you're not allowed to do drive rush if a fireball is active on the screen.
Fireball's on the screen.
What do you guys think?
It's very difficult because some characters, I think, they've been built around the fact that they are able to control that space, but like defensively. No, like defensively. Like as in if someone jumps over the fireball, basically is what I'm trying. That's where the drive rush comes in.
And look at Aki, right? You could see from a marketing perspective, right? Aki and Rashid, if you look at their trailers, they specifically show segments where they do fireball drive rush.
I don't like it.
They specifically show that. So it is actually an intentional thing that they wanted in the game.
No. That's fine. I don't think that was the point we were trying to make, or that I was trying to make. It was more like, as in, I think the defensive value of forcing the opponent to make a mistake is what should be maintained, but I do not like how it's like just free offense.
Used for offense,
just throwing fireball and having straight up, it's like having a mix-up, not fun. I understand that especially if you're a character that has bad anti-fireball options, you look at that and you're like, all right, I guess I'll die.
In general, I don't know, man.
Dude,
I just don't think
Guile and
Jury
will be just fine without drive rush from fireball. Their fireballs are slow enough. They get pressure anyways, man. Chun-Li too.
Thank you.
They all will get it anyways. It's not like they're losing their pressure. They still have slow fireballs. They got away with it in Street Fighter 5. I mean, they'll be fine in Street Fighter 6, bro.
The reason why everybody's even looking into Chun now too, right? Like why Japan is playing a lot of Chun-Li even more, and why America's starting to see it, is because she has a slow moving fireball in the drive rush.
It's funny too, Sonic. Like Ryu, his OD fireball is like, it's famously a really good EX fireball because it causes a knockdown. But in this game, Ken's EX fireball is better because it doesn't knock down, so he can OD fireball, goes through your fireball, and then you get smacked in the face by a drive rush heavy punch. It's so funny. Exactly.
I was gonna say one thing about this situation is that some of the changes we mentioned before actually would be pretty useful to fix this as well. So, like, if drive rush has less momentum, for example, or the change to the amount of distance covered that we mentioned before as well is implemented in the game, this could make it much harder to follow up after a fireball, right? Mm-hmm. Because then you have a situation where you need to pick very specific ranges where you can do it. Because then, say Ken wouldn't be able to drive rush from full screen and just go nuts on you with drive rush because it would cover less distance, for example. Or something that I like to do with Guile, right, like with the normal fireball, is that I do drive rush bazooka knee behind it. That has a lot of momentum. And the reason why I do it is because if they jump, the bazooka knee hits them, and then they fall into the fireball. And if I'm ready, I can even get a combo, which is crazy. And then if they didn't do anything, they, kind of have to eat the plus frame. If you fix the momentum or the distance covered, then I can't do it from, every position on screen. It becomes much more simple to stop, because it means that I will have less ranges at which I'm just scared like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel this is one of those situations that would change the most based on whatever other changes are applied to drive rush. Because if they go to the punish counter scenario, right? Like, let's say that's the only thing that they do. Drive rush, you get punish counter if you get hit doing it. This wouldn't do anything for this situation. You would lose a little bit of drive if you get DP'd, basically, but that wouldn't do anything. So if you want to fix it specifically, you need to address the movement of the drive rush, because this is like doing a drive rush in neutral where your opponent cannot do anything. Basically, is what we're trying to say. In fact, having a drive rush that doesn't cover as much distance, or it has less momentum, actually would go straight into what I was saying of how this is a cool idea defensively of forcing an opponent to make a mistake, but not offensively where you're just pushing a mix-up. Because what I could do is that I could drive rush behind the fireball as Gal, for example. If they do something really risky, like jump over it, I could do my drive rush anti-air. That would be cool.
This is another thing. I forgot to bring this up too. I forgot. There's another layer to this. Is that even when you know what button to use to stop somebody's drive rush, some characters have tools to stop to beat you, even if you know what to do. So, for example, with Ken, he can drive rush. You think he's gonna do drive rush heavy punch, and then he'll drive rush, and then he'll do Dragon Lash kick, and you'll get blasted for it, right? Or, they'll stop and bait you for a DP, for example. You can do drive rush jab or drive rush throw to stop your momentum. So it's like, once again, it's just so heavily in the favor of the person drive rushing. They have so many options to get around even your counters, even if you're cracked. So it's like, man, dude, I don't know what Capcom's going to do. I think, like, no matter what, they're going to do something that we're not going to expect. All right, guys, final thoughts, and what do you think Capcom's going to do?
I would say that the most reasonable thing and most probable thing that Capcom will do is the scaling, as I mentioned. I think is the easiest solution. It's a little bit lazy, and I don't know if I would like it as a long-term solution, but I think that's going to happen. The other thing that I would really like for them to do, and if out of all the changes that we proposed today, if nothing is going to change, the one that I want is the punish counter on the drive rush. That is what I would love for them to implement. I think that one would go a long ways balancing the risk reward. The last parting thought is I think pro players will be fine for the most part. I mean, they're right to complain, but they will be fine at the highest level. So like it won't affect the competitive scene, as much, maybe, even though we'll see it a lot. Like the very good players will be able to deal with it, but I think the normal players will struggle until the end of the year.
So Vesper, I'm gonna need you to go to your YouTube channel. I'm gonna need you to look
I'm not going to my YouTube channel.
I'm gonna need you to look at all the Nash videos I made for you. Okay? I don't have any faith whatsoever.
No, they gave you 3-frame normal. You just monkey pawed it. That's all.
How many years did it take, man? How many years, man?
Okay, so you have no faith. That's what you're trying to say.
I have no faith, bro. I'm serious. I have none whatsoever.
This has got all depressing all of us.
That's all you have to say.
I personally think that they will probably not change the way Drive Rush works because of the fact that they are so gung-ho about it when you look at the DLC characters for the game and when you look at how the game is structured in terms of the block stun and how characters are designed. I genuinely don't think they're going to change it, but if they do something to the Drive Rush, it could be that they just make it so that way it's punish counterable throughout the entire duration. Honestly, though, I really don't think they're going to do anything crazy to it because it's such a core aspect of the game. And it sucks because it's so bad. And I don't know what they're going to actually... It's just too difficult to really affect it without affecting everything else to try to balance it.
It's complicated.
And there are...
the game's built around it.
Yup, and there's so many other system mechanics that rely on the strength of drive rush. I have no faith. I'm sorry. I have no
Dang.
faith.
Let's wrap this up. Sonic, Mir, it's been a pleasure. This podcast was 10 times longer than I wanted it to be. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us. Thanks, chat, for your suggestions as well. We'll have some more discussions on spicy topics in the future. And yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, let us know. And maybe we can bring it up as one of our topics in the comments or in the chat. Thanks again, guys, for joining us with that. And we'll see what Capcom does a year from now. It honestly could have been much longer. Don't worry. We'll have a part 2 when they see what they do with Drive Rush. We'll definitely have a part 2.
Okay, guys, we're back.
Game
so now,
is too slow. We need Drive Rush.
It's
too
now, now that they've removed Drive Rush and added this new mechanic called Drive Murder Kill, what do you guys think?
Akuma's too strong. We can't get in on him. There's no Drive Rush. I don't have throw loops because I don't have Drive Rush.